Hello, it's his Volk. Time to enjoy card making with me. Today I want to show you how to work with a cover plate die and share loads of tips and tricks. So don't skip to not miss anything. I have this die from Alinacraft which I really like. The only thing is that this die is in the American size of 4¼ by 5½ inches. It's also very detailed, which are just two things you might run into when considering buying such a die, or if you already have one that you find difficult to use. I'm going to show you how to use this die with two different card sizes. When die cutting, it can happen that not all parts are cut out properly. You can see this in the leaves below. This is not due to the die, but to the thickness of the sandwich you have made. I've put an extra piece of paper between the die and the cutting plates and an extra run through the die cutting machine back and forth to help to cut everything. You can get lots of parts loose by hitting your desk with the die or just above the bin. Most of the parts I can get loose by carefully wiggle them out by hand. I roll the leftovers loose with this roller from Sizzix, which I find very handy for this. A toothbrush might also work if you don't have one. If it's die cut well enough, and the Alina die cut should do just fine, you can easily get all the small parts out. Just try more often to see which sandwich of place and thickness of papers works best for you. The standard cards that I make measure 10½ centimeters wide by 14,8 centimeters long. And as you can see, the die does not fit on it. The die is a little wider and a little shorter. You can of course adjust your card base accordingly and use the American size of the die, which fits into a C6 envelope by the way. But you can also cut the die to make it fit, like for this square card. I will show both ways in this video for you. You can also glue the corners of the card with cut out parts of the die and stamp a text in the middle. You can also cut out parts of flowers and stick them on the card. I want to make a variant that is suitable for every card size. Let's see what it will be today. First, I would like to share a tip with you. We all look for bargains, don't we? Or things that we can use in our card making hobby. For this, I like to go to the second-hand shop and look for black photo albums. Preferably unused, but a used one is fine too, as long as you can tear out the photos and still have enough paper left. I managed to get hold of this almost empty photo album for €1, and this paper is perfect for my cards. I've cut out a piece of paper that I now sandwich between a B and a C plate. This black paper and the cover plate die. No extra shims or extra papers were needed. I use a piece of washi tape to prevent it from shifting. So I have a B plate, the die, the paper on top, and on top of that a C plate. In my case I am cutting into my C plate, but you can also flip things the other way if you want to cut in your B plate or have other instructions on your own cutting machine. I advise you to follow them first. I use one side of my plate for colored and black paper and the other side for white paper. So now I have a black and a white shape cut out. I will use these to make two cards. First, I'm going to ink blend on a piece of 120 grams DCP paper. This is a very nice thin smooth paper that I like to use for blending ink. I have these blending brushes from Alinacraft store and they are very handy. They blend beautifully and they grip very well in the hand. And I really like that they have different colors. I use the colors red, pink and blue this time. This pink ink is from Card Deco. This is a pigment ink and a bit brighter than the other inks I have, but I did not have any memento ink in this bright color. It blends very well. You can do this technique with all kinds of inks. Depending on the type of ink and the type of paper, you get different results. Also, when you blend with a blending brush or with a sponge, you get different results. I like the way it works, because you can blend from dark to light. I use rotating movements to blend the color from dark to light, so I use the cutout shape as a template for the bottom paper. Now watching me blending is a bit boring, so I speed up the process. When you have applied the ink to the brush in circular movements, it is useful to wipe it off on your glass mat or work surface, so that you do not end up with too thick a blob on the paper. The rest of the ink on the glass mat can easily be removed from the glass mat with the blending brush and used on the card. Adding this blue color gives a perfect contrast and interest to the blend. I now use a light color to make the parts flow into each other nicely. It is always so cool when you have blended the ink and removed the stencil. Don't you agree? To me it's totally gorgeous, and I haven't even a finished card yet. As you can see, I now have a nice blended piece of paper and a nice blended cutout shape. 2 for the effort of 1. I'm going to use this blended cutout piece on my card. You'll see that later. First I'm going to continue with the background. I can easily glue this onto a card. Add some text and extra flowers if you like. Anything goes. But for my card I like to glue an extra 250 grams paper on top of it. I stick it on with normal glue, although I have to say that it is much nicer and easier if you use double-sided tape sheets. I will mention the products I use in the description below the video. Because the glue is water-based and the ink is also water-based, you have to be careful that the glue doesn't run too much on the ink, otherwise you get stains. I press the panel with a tissue and pick up a single drop of excess glue. And then I cut off the rest. It works best with long scissors. With a small pair of scissors you run the risk of zigzagging a little so that the line is not straight. And with a guillotine you run the risk of cutting into the die cut. You could also do it very well with a ruler and a knife. I find it quicker with scissors actually. Because I want this card to be exactly as big as the panel that I have made, I just take a 250 grams A4 sheet. I will score this at 4¼ inches, the size of the die. It is very sturdy and makes nice sharp folds. And then I cut it at 5½ inches. I work with inches and centimeters interchangeably, just whatever I need. Many rulers have both centimeters and inches on them, and that is very handy for this sort of thing. You always fold the card with the valley fold facing outwards. I pass it again with a bone folder to get a sharp fold. After folding, I cut out the remainder. I always use leftover pieces to cut out figures or to stamp and cut out stamps. Now I attach the panel that I made using double-sided tape. If you follow me and have seen more of my videos, you will recognize that this is a very nice way to stick tape. The Alinacraft tape sticks really well and remains in place even after a long time. Now I have a tip for you to put the panel straight onto the card. As you see, I only peel off the corners of the backing of the double-sided tape when I want to stick the panel. I still had my scoring board at hand and I use it again, but not for scoring. When I place both the card and the panel against it, they lie perfectly on top of each other and the panel sticks exactly in the right place. I now peel off the corners of the tape and I am absolutely right with the size. There is still a text to be added. I stick this with 3D tape from Alinacraft. It is also perfect for making shaker cards. It is 5 mm wide and 2 mm thick. There are 5 meters in a roll. Without my T-ruler I always stick things wonky. Now I want to decorate the card with some gems. I had the gems for a long time. They are in bags, but now they might be sent in jars. Alina has a lot of sequins, gems and resin shakers in her shop. I can never choose such beautiful colors. so watch out when you go to her shop. Shopping on her site is addictive. But who doesn't want to shop for crafty stuff? It is fun and it is so lovely to spoil yourself with crafty products, isn't it? These gems go with everything. I have 2 different sizes and I'm trying to decide where to stick the big ones and where to stick the small ones. This is what I love about crafting, don't you? I love making something, trying it out, enjoying the glitter and the colors, and seeing what you like best. I used my bottle of glossy accents to stick the gems on, because of its fine tip and also because of its transparency. By the way, a bottle like this lasts a long time. And look, this size card fits also in a C6 envelope, which I normally use for European size cards. And of course, I also decorate the envelope. I stick a die cutted out piece of paper with a piece of tape, so that it does not move. Magnets would get in the way too much. I align the envelope to the grid lines on my working mat and also the die cut that I am taping on top of it. Now I know for sure that I am sticking it on straight. I ink blend using the same colors of ink as on the card. As you see, I ink blend using rotating movements, and after coloring all the spots, I go over it again with a matching light color to have 2 colors blend into each other. Because of the edge tape, you can easily turn it around, like a hinge, and see if you have covered all the spots with ink, if the colors blend nicely and if it's thick and dark enough. I like it that I chose to add a tiny bit of blue to the range of colors I used. It gives it an extra interest. Always remove tape very carefully. Bend the tape flat towards the paper. This way you have the least chance of damaging the paper. If it is still difficult, I recommend you to use a heat tool. And that is how I quickly matched my envelope to the card. You could also do this with the flap of the envelope. I immediately go on make the next envelope. For this, I first stick the tape on the envelope. I use the lines on my work mat to stick the tape straight. The envelope lies straight next to the lid line, as you can see. I first blend the tape part black with black oxide ink. I found these handy storage containers in a shop in my neighborhood. They are ideal to store the domed ink pads. You can change the ink pads without your hands and desk getting dirty. I couldn't find them on Alinacraft's website, but you can buy them online too. It seems strange that I blend this part with black ink. You can use other types of black ink as well. Try what you have. Practice and learn from your mistakes. Unfortunately, the flap of the envelope and the edge of the envelope show through a little, but fortunately you won't see that later when the panel is on top of it. If you want to avoid this, it is best to put a thick piece of paper inside the envelope before blending. And don't forget to clean your working space. How many times have I smudged the back of my envelope or card with stains from a working mat that turns out not to be clean? You can also put some masking tape or post-it tape on the back of your card or envelope to prevent it from getting smudged. I will smooth out the white edge of the die cut and add a little color. This is a great color combination. The bright blue color adds a lovely interest to the corner. And then I stick this on the black part and cut off the overhanging parts. The black background gives a nice contrast to the colored die cut cover. This would be also nice for a card. In this video I didn't make a card that matched the envelope, but it will be easily made. You could just make the card the same as I did with the envelope or just use black paper. For now, for the next card, I'm going to continue with the ink blended panel that I have lying around and with the black cutout sheet. I will stick these on top of each other slightly offset, so that you can just see a bit of black shadow under the ink blended panel. You can see that it's just a little too wide and too short for an A6 card, and even for a slightly wider card you still have the black edge. You could cut it off, but it is nicer to leave it in place. I'm going to stick it on at an angle and leave the black border like it is. There's no need to glue this corner because it will stick out. Now I glue the panel at an angle, just by feel. I don't overthink this, just glue the way I like it. Another corner or another placement may work out as pretty as well, I'm sure. And I cut off the overhanging pieces. Carefully, because I'm going to use this leftover piece. I never throw away such scraps. If I don't use them for my envelopes, I will store them with my dies or in a leftover container box to search through if I need inspiration. I have a stash of text here that I have stamped and die cut with the matching Alinacraft dies. Very easy to make and very handy to have in stock. The black strips I have stamped and heat embossed with Alinacraft white embossing powder. You can find a link to all the products in the description below the video. I want to glue the black text strip raised. Here I have a super handy tip for you to try out. Alina sells black fun foam. They are packed per 5 A4 sheets of 21 by 29 centimeters and they are 3 mm thick. Look, the foam blocks that Alina sells are also 3 mm thick. Then you have an idea for comparison. Those 3M blocks stick the best of all. Ideal if you want to stick acetate foil or something that you want to hold really firmly. But you can also make them yourself in any color you want. I cut it in half, because a piece like that is quite large and also lasts quite long. I cover this with a sheet of double-sided tape from Alinacraft. It is also A4 size. You only need to pull off a small corner of the protective foil and line it up with the foam. Do not press the small sticky corner until the double-sided tape is in place. And then carefully pull off the backing. I press on the back to get it firmly attached. I have to say that the fun foam smells a bit. That's also sometimes the case with black paper. A very strange smell. But after the double-sided tape has been applied, luckily you won't smell it anymore. And now cut off the overhanging piece and then cut with the protective foil on the back so that my scissors don't stick. And so I stick the other side on too. In this case, it is the easiest to bend the yellow side backwards. I show it again. I put the double-sided tape on the foam, but with only the one corner loose. I slide on the places that do not yet stick and only stick the sticky corner when it's all straight. Only then do I pull the backing off, and in doing so I wipe it smooth. I stick the remaining piece onto a sheet that is left over, and this is the easiest way to cut it off and save it for when I need a strip somewhere. Now I can cut the homemade double-sided black tape into strips and use it to stick my text on. You can cut it, die cut it and cut it with scissors. So you make it any shape you need. Very handy and quite cheap. Now I can't decide which text to use. That's what happens when there's too much choice in text. I cut the strip of homemade double-sided foam tape to size. This is the way I like to do it. I keep a separate pair of scissors to cut sticky things. I stick the text strip on the card very easy. I lay it down carefully and check with my T-ruler if it lies straight. If it does, then I press it tight. And it sticks like a dream. And as you can see, the text is raised, but you can't see the ugly stickers sticking out of it. I also decorated this card with the same gems. Looks really cool. On this card I stick a row of 3 small ones to the side of the panel I glued on. And an extra bigger one to that middle flower for a point of interest. See how beautiful it shines? Here I show you again today's cards. 2 cards with matching envelopes in one effort. The same materials and yet a different style. And you can do anything you want with different colors. I hope I gave you new tips and tricks and help you out in using cover plate dies that have a different size to the card shapes you normally use. Tell me what size card is the size you prefer? Don't forget to follow me on my own channel Sisvolk and use any of my links to get to Alinacraft's products if you feel like shopping on AliExpress or Amazon. This gives me a few % commission whilst it does not cost you anything extra. Have a nice crafty day and I will see you next time. Bye bye!